Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of DevOps with Zach. So today I have my good colleague and my friend Kalith with me today. Today we are going to talk about Web3, which is a really awesome topic these days everyone is talking about. So a little bit about Kalith. Kalith is a senior software consultant at Palo Alto, Singapore, and he's a serial entrepreneur. And we both always have nice discussion about techie stuff, movies, obviously some foods, and we do outings and hikings and stuff. So I was thinking always that have a good chat with Kalith and have a session recorded. So Kalith, welcome to DevOps with Zach. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, I'm more than happy. Today we are going to talk about Web3, which is like a very interesting topic. Everyone is talking about Web3. So I thought of it to give introduction about what is Web3 and what are the difference between Web3 and Web2, maybe Web1. So yeah, we can start it.
All right. So let me start with a question. I know you collect a bunch of gaming collectibles, a ton of those magic cards and things like that.
Money.
Absolutely. How would you think if you can buy M virtual?
You mean the collectible and the cards, virtual?
Yeah.
I would say I'll be more than happy, and my wife too, because my room is pretty much stuffed with those stuff. So it's very physical, it's taking so resources. Yes, I'm more than happy.
All right. So say you want to buy it right now. Say Disney or Marvel release their own gaming collectibles. What stops you? What are some of your concerns right now? If they release something with Web2, what are your concerns?
So first thing, if I'm going to spend a lot of money, so I'll check if it's real legit to go and buy authenticity of the product. It can be a fake product in the market. So I just go to a lot of maybe Reddit and go to a lot of forums and check whether this is a real product. So yeah, I had to do some homework too before I go and buy those things.
That's exactly the problem that Web3 is resolving.
Oh.
Because Web3, it's all about having an identity. So that's essentially what is missing in Web2. If you look around, there are a lot of companies out there just functioning as Web2. What they do is they have everything quite centralized. They have their own central database where they keep their data. So to prove authenticity, it's difficult because they're just one party, right? Yep. So what this Web3 is trying to do is through decentralization, is trying to democratize the process of storing data. Okay. Say, let's take this old example that we took with Disney, right? Say Disney released some virtual gaming collectible. With blockchain, you can trace the entire history from the creation time, who it actually transferred, and all that track record. So
the previous owners even?
Absolutely, yeah. And from there, you can see the history and the prices that it's been sold to. So you have that authenticity. So that's the essential problem that Web3 is solving. There's a bunch of other use cases which will take so much time, but I think to summarize the entire concept, it's about having a digital identity, and verifiable digital identity.
Yes. So this thing gonna be a solution for the people like us, especially the geeks. A lot of into those who are collecting stuff. Yes. Okay. If I ask you something, for example, the Disney, so they are giving some kind of serial code or certificate to authenticate that this is our product. So still it's available in Web2.
Yeah. So the current version of Web3 isn't really Web3.
Okay.
Even though people like to call it, it's not really Web3. So because there's so much data that lives outside the chain. Okay. So that this is not inclusive of all the projects I'm talking about, but probably at least 95 to 99% of the projects are 2.5.
Oh, really?
There's majority of the logic that sits outside from the blockchain, and where you have such a tiny business logic lives in blockchain. Yeah, right now, the traveling mechanism is, of course, Web2. But when it comes to Web3, it's going to be the real form of Web3 is going to be on the blockchain, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, so you're a software engineer. So what I do, I enable DevOps, right? So we both kind of work together. What are the potential things for a software engineer? So let's assume that we are going to build a Web3 application for another, maybe a marketplace or something like that. So is there anything like a rocket science that you have to learn something new, or just any tools already exist in the industry that you can easily catch up and you can learn yourself?
Yeah, there's no rocket science. Yeah, especially at our line of business, it's all about having that strength to research and learn. So it pretty much applies here as well. When you think about the DevOps side of things, of course, it goes as pretty usual because, I mean, it's an extremely fast area. I mean, you see projects popping out here and there for like within a number of days. So like projects popping out quite fast. So speed is quite the moat with Web3. In order to have the speed, you need to be able to have enough resources to back that, to be able to, from the place of like when you like do things on locally, like from there to get it out, you need to deploy it to some kind of a cloud. So you need to think of your DevOps strategy right at this, just all the other projects. It's the best time to do, like best time to think of DevOps is right at the start. That's what I traditionally do. Like before even I start coding anything at all, what I do is I just coming up with the scaffold and then get the CI/CD set up, and then like you basically develop it from there. So it's not like you sit somewhere and code for months and then think of DevOps. That's not how it's gonna be, because if you go on like that, you're gonna lose because it's extremely fast. Projects popping out. So think of DevOps first. Get your pipeline set up and all that from the get-go, and start developing your application.
Yes, so I totally agree with that. So in DevOps, we have a saying that our main purpose is deliver the product in high velocity to the market. It can be any kind of product, because your competitors are there. So if you're not taking the head first, so you may lose in the industry. So I totally agree with that. So when you're talking about technology, yes, we're talking about CI/CD. Maybe the pipeline can be scanned. We use the security scans to check the vulnerabilities and the delivery. Then we talk about the CD part. And the deployment, so many methods are there. So when we're talking about Web3, are the same stack that we are going to use? For example, if it can be a serverless infrastructure, it can be a containerized platform. Maybe we can, in containerized, we can deploy in Kubernetes. When you talk about cloud native, these tools, right? It is really cloud natively helpful to, like you said, the delivery of project to the industry in DevOps in overall, or else are you expecting more tools, something like new tools to do it very fast?
Sure. Yeah, I think like with the Web2 aspect of it, right? I mean, Web3 is of course an inclusion of Web2.
Yeah.
The Web2 aspect of it, getting out your React project and all the other elements, just as I said before, right? There's a bunch of data that sits outside the chain. So for those data, you're going to have a database. It's going to be like just as an old project. So for those stuff, with the nature of these projects, that totally would depend on it. Let's say some NFT project, right? If you can build up your audience like beforehand, you can get an idea of what to expect, how this traffic is going to be like. But if it's something that you plan on, that say like you're building something groundbreaking, right? Of course there's going to be traction. So if that's the case, I would, for the non-blockchain related part of the application, I would suggest go with containerization rather than serverless, because then you get more visibility. These things that there was a couple of times that there's this project called Cool Cats, it broke their website quite a number of times. They couldn't host their minting event. That kind of gotten delayed over 2 to 3 weeks. So if something like that happens, some actually do it as a bit of a marketing campaign as well, saying we got so much traction. But behind the scene, if your platform actually broken because of something related to your servers, of your infrastructure, then the credibility goes down.
Yes, true.
Yeah, because this is an environment, credibility is massively needed.
And it impact the business as well.
Absolutely. And in the process, it could even delay like minting process, and at the same time, interested parties may lose, and there's so much could happen. It's really important that you have visibility. That's the only reason I don't suggest serverless going into areas where it involves massive spiking. So sudden spikes, right? Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Just go with all containerization, because you get better visibility. And from the blockchain side of things, there's this development tool called Alchemy.
Alchemy.
Yeah, that is something that we traditionally use these days to develop on Ethereum. And they are constantly evolving right now. I think they're claiming to be the AWS of blockchain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think from like probably within the next couple of months, we'll see more people using it. It was actually like quite restrictive beta that they had till quite recently, but they have finally opened for people like us to use. Yeah. If there's somebody who's in blockchain development, I do recommend go check them out. There's so much cool things happening there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that the fact that, yes, this channel, it names DevOps, but we do talk about other related things as well. But today I mainly want to talk about the what's Web3, yes, and how the DevOps can involve. So what I can take from this, your answer is that it can be involved with anything, the DevOps, yes. So from the beginning, your transformation should be started, not in the end. Correct me if I'm wrong. So what you mean is you do the skeleton first, with the CI/CD first commit to your delivery, the CD part, then you start your coding. So rather you wait till the end. So that's really interesting. I'm happy to say that you can involve DevOps in anywhere. So it's a day-to-day thing now. It's better to start from the beginning to the end of your CD. And yes, it's always, I talk about this, not a tool, it's a practice. So keep the good practice like Kalith was mentioning. So it's better to, then you won't will have any failed product tools maybe. Yeah. So Kalith, let's talk about security. So what do you think about the Web3, right? How secure these platforms or these Web3 is? If you want to host your own Web3 application or something like that, or website. So how secure this platform, how we can make it secure?
That's a very controversial topic, Zach. Because I don't think we have achieved the maximum potential in terms of security in the field yet. As I was saying before, the notion of Web3 is quite new. So there's quite a lot of development is already happening. A lot of developers are trying to make it safe. But of course, there are a certain number of vulnerabilities, that have costed some people quite a lot of money. So I think this happened like quite a few months back. There was one currency. I don't know if you could remember it. Yeah, I can't recall the currency, but due to some major form of vulnerability, it just lost everything that they had earned. And something like that could happen, but not saying it happens on a daily basis. Yes. But there are certain number of vulnerabilities I think that's quite common, like everywhere, right?
Yes.
That's something that we can't eliminate. Totally.
Yes. So when you talk about the reliability, even the major sites can go down. GitHub, right? So like you remember that there's a major outage. So yes, so anything can go wrong.
Sure. Yeah, that's the name of the game. It's still new. There's quite a bit of improvement that must happen. So I'm not denying that, but
I like that.
But yeah, there's quite a bit of improvement that's needed.
So let's talk about your little secret. I know that you have a couple of projects that you're doing. You already shared with me a couple of things. I was like, I gave this wow face. Let's talk about one of your projects. You know that Metalist, right? So can you tell the audience that, okay, how did you come to this project? What are the main reason to you build this? Obviously, there should be why you build it, right? Then the technical side of it, from your first commit to the delivery, how did you host it by yourself? You did your development part, your DevOps enabling part, and the security and the queue, everything you've done yourself. So I would love to know about that.
Yeah. As soon as I heard the notion of things about decentralization, right? And I was fascinated by the entire notion, by the way. So I was just trying out different things. At the first go, I didn't understand shit. Everything was like, people were saying mint and blockchain, pushing transactions and things like that. That all sounded like very geek to me at the time. But when I started getting a hang of it, like when I started understanding the basic concepts, I started by trying out several small things. I used some third-party libraries out there, tried exploring the code and see what's going on, which at the beginning I still didn't understand shit. But as I started looking into the projects, then I started getting a hang of it. So then I thought, what's the best way that you can learn? It's by doing, right? It's not by reading. It's not by listening. Yes, it's by doing. So I started coding. So I started with a little foxy NFT collection called Cyber Foxes. It's a bunch of foxes that sits on the blockchain. Yeah, I just did it with my wife, and yeah, I learned a lot from it, like from the start to end, how you would do it and how would you come up with a smart contract, things like that. Learned quite a bit from that. And also there was a massive side that I experienced. It's building an audience, which I haven't done before. Because the norm is to come with your product first and then market it. But now it's different, especially around Web3. You tend to build your audience first, see their intentions. They call this minimum viable audience. So you build your minimum viable audience, and then you start building your application. So you shell your idea,
Okay.
and then you gather your fans, and then putting it out there. And that's the strategy that goes on. That was quite new to me at the time. So I learned a lot, built a decent amount of audience, and sold a few NFTs. By taking a ton of learning experiences from it, then I wanted to build something over a long time, and I wanted to solve a hard or complex problem and do it slowly, because that's one way that you can solve problems, and just by doing and trying things out in the long run, because I wanted a bit more complicated problem to solve. So having looked around and seen quite a number of metaverses popping out from here and there. There's Decentraland, there's Axie Infinity, and there's so many of the smaller metaverses as well coming from here and there. And even by looking at the numbers, I think there has been about around 700% of the number of transactions that has been increased from the last year in terms of metaverses. So looking at the trends, looking at the numbers, I thought this is going to be a mainstream at some point, right? Just like how we own real estate in the real world, will, of course, there's going to be a demand for a virtual real estate.
Yes.
In metaverses. Like say there can be some virtual reality gadget that you can wear and be present in the metaverse. So that entire notion, people have been embracing it. So I thought this is going to be something legit. So we should try and solve a real problem with virtual real estate. So we came up with Metalist. So Metalist is a virtual real estate listing aggregator. So what we intend to do is enable people to buy more virtual real estate and able to buy and what they're actually looking for. At the start, we have already released the MVP, which we were able to do within like about 3 weeks. We have like bit of me and couple of my friends, have gathered, and we couple of solid weekend hacking. We complete the MVP within about three weekends.
3 weekends.
3 weekends, yes.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, process of getting it out there, of course. So like we after putting out so many post-it notes, we had so many ideas, so many things that we need to develop. We conquered down what we actually need to present some, and that is the listing aggregator end, which we finish it from start to finish within 3 weeks. The entire process was like we started with DevOps. Like we started picking out frameworks, picking out what we're going to be developing in. So we decided that so quickly, because all we wanted at that point was to validate whether if it's shit or it's going to go somewhere. Other than that, there's no point of you developing something for 3 months, with something that no one's going to use. Yeah. So started with DevOps, selected frameworks, and in terms of the tools for the front end, we use this framework called Remix. Okay. It's actually a quite new framework. Honestly, the reason why we went with it is we just wanted to try it out, and we've been hearing so many good stories about Remix and being efficient in server-side rendering side of things. So we picked that as the front-end framework. And for the back-end, we actually went with serverless, which was a learning point for us. It wasn't the ideal use case for it, to be honest, but later we converted it we actually containerized it. And
so this is what you learned from the previous conversation we had, that you were telling, okay, serverless is not going for these sun spikes and stuff, right? So that's why you moved to the containers, right?
Yeah, and actually another aspect of serverless for us was the cold starts. It was throwing off a bit, because being a listing aggregator, SEO is something quite important for us. So in order to achieve the highest number, you need to be able to serve it like super fast. So there was some bottleneck. Okay. Of course, by warming up certain number of containers, we alleviated it a bit, but not totally.
In your serverless or the serverless side?
Yeah.
Okay. You were using Lambda or?
Lambda.
Okay.
Yes, Lambda with API gateway.
Lambda with API gateway. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good topic. Maybe we can have another session.
Absolutely.
Yes, because everyone talking about some threshold, and the Lambda invoking, there's a minimum number of concurrency you can do in Lambda. So I think we talk about that another day. It's going to be a very interesting topic. So I can invite another colleague, also serverless hero, so we can invite and have a good, cool discussion again. After that, you move to containers, right? So that in that situation also you had the same cold starting issue. So like
Nope. We didn't have that any longer. After moving to containers, we had different issues. But of course, there's going to be like early stages, like you're going to have issues.
Okay. Because the question I had, because I know it's not relevant Web3, but it's a good point you mentioned. I have seen those who are not using good practices. Some using the content image 1 to some are 5 GB the image size, so it's not a good practice. So the content image should be immutable. You should be able to recreate this very fast to deploy it. So that's one point to always keep in mind. Containers are not like you can install everything and expect to start very fast. No, that's wrong. Yes, thank you for that point, Kalith. So let's continue our story.
Yeah, sure. So in the end, we got things done and we wanted to release it. And we were wondering what are the means of marketing that we can do. And we didn't want to spend so much, because the real reason why we came up with Metalist is to enable people to buy more virtual land.
Yeah.
In order to empower them, we wanted to come up with a way that we can finance. So rather than just going out a major cut from your paycheck or your savings, just to come up with a way that you can pay it monthly and get it done. So that's what we wanted to develop afterwards. So that was our long-term. So we didn't want to spend so much money, and what we did was we just created some funny TikToks and put it out there. And that way we did get some traction. We did get about 1,000 to 2,000 visits, which was quite good at the time. Yeah, that's the end-to-end story and how we build it from start to finish.
Now it's live?
Now it's live.
Okay. So later we can put all the links in the description. So
absolutely.
Everyone go and can check, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you the $1 million question now. I know with Web3, there's no any boundary for imaginations, right? You can do like things that you can even not imagine. So as a developer, as software engineer in this Web3, what do you think, like any imagination that you want to do, make it happen to this Web3 industry?
I think there's a lot of possibility with the fact that like you have an identity. You can have a verifiable identity built virtually. That enables a whole plethora of options. One thing that I'm really fascinated about, it's metaverse and how that is being emerging with Web3. And I think that's a real deal. And there's so much options. Just these days you have Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, and there's like a lot of social networks, right? So I believe at some point metaverses will overtake, or some of the major companies, like for an example, Meta, that's building their own metaverse, right? So there's quite a lot of opportunity in the metaverse front, which I'm really excited about. And there's quite a lot of the mixed reality tech that's being emerging, which excites quite a number of people. Just imagine there's some cool headset that you can wear and be present and just have a virtual coffee or virtual beer with your friends, just at the comfort at home. Think about that.
Yes.
That'd be so cool.
Cool, yes.
So yeah, a lot of companies nowadays, they're solely into give more immersive experience from virtual reality and mixed reality, just trying to like bridge the two. And there's so much research going on right now. Yeah, that's one place I would definitely put my money on. And even other than that, like even recruiting, there's serious potential there to being able to sort of validate your authenticity of your certificates. I mean, just not something that you just put it on LinkedIn. It's going to be like, say, an NFT. Say you complete some type of certification and you receive it as an NFT. So that's verifiable. You just can't just put it out there in LinkedIn anymore that you're saying, like, I got this, I got that. That's not going to be the case anymore. In the future, it's going to be you have wallet, and in the wallet, you have that NFT that you gotten as a certificate. When you connect the wallet, then it will get edited. Otherwise, it won't. So that's one. So that's one way that it could disrupt recruiting industry, and it could help them a lot to see who's cheating and see who's like. And yeah, I think every industry is going to have its own impact. Another industry that I can think of, it's the entertainment. Think of your favorite nightclub, right? Just have their like your own sort of VIP membership. Right now, it's just a tag or like a card somewhere which they control. Say you have it as an NFT and you can resell it when you don't need it.
Yes.
So then it becomes in a way an asset. If that's something quite rare, say for a certain exclusive club, you only can accept a certain number of people, say 10 people, and then you're going to issue 10 NFTs. And when you don't need that, you can resell it. How cool would be that?
And you have a record also, right? So
yeah,
second user, the third user, the fourth user, so go on. It's never ending.
There's so many options, man. I'm just fascinated about this. I think within coming years, there's going to be more and more use cases coming up. I know there's quite a bit of noise about this is being a fad and then not something it's not going to be there within 5-10 years. I think there's a lot of noise coming from in terms of energy efficiencies and stuff, which the developers are massively working on it right now to make it efficient. I think it's still early stage. Please give them some time to make things more efficient. I think it's going to help us in the future.
Wow. So today we learned a lot about this, the metaverse, so many new things. It's pretty fascinating, huh? So I was imagining a few things while you're saying about these things. Okay, I could have done this, I could have done that. So the industry is there, so you can go and try. So Kalith mentioned later, I'll put all the links and related resources you can learn. And if any questions, you can ask. So Kalith will be more than happy to answer your questions later. Thank you so much, Kalith, to join with me today. So I hope to have you here again with another episode, like I mentioned before, so we can do another awesome chat.
Thank you so much for having me again.
So that's the end of this session today. We really had a good chat with Kalith. Thanks him again. And we'll see you with another episode with DevOps with Zach. Bye-bye.